for everybody that needs. You got your coffee? Yeah, I think we have. I think we have. Maybe it's for the different conference, or. It's okay. We'll get ready for the next presentation. Before doing that, by show of hands, how many are going to stay after the panel discussion for the networking event, so we can have some? It looks pretty good. Okay, looking forward to it. Then I will introduce our next presenter. That's Panayiotis, I hope I pronounced it correct, who's talking about how we have tackled the possibility of cyber attacks on our solar farms. And we were just talking in the break, and I have to say that I was devastated to hear what you were telling me. So listen up closely. There's something to learn here.
So good afternoon. My name is Panayiotis Nicolaides. I am from Cyprus. So I am working at Green Energy Group. So we're one of the leading EPC contractors and maintenance contractors for solar farms in Cyprus. About Cyprus, and the dynamic of the market there. So especially in Cyprus now, we are trying to open up the market. So now we have more companies acting as a utility company from renewable energy sources. This will begin in maybe mid-2024. So we are one of the companies that actually has a supply, is supply company. And we're supplying clients with renewable energy sources, mainly solar. So as I was saying before on our break, we are one of the companies that decided to do something to prevent an attack, cyber attack on our PV parks. So based on my experience, especially in Cyprus and Greece, they only do the very basic as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So anything we've been saying today, I can safely say that maybe 5% of that is being done. So there we go. So let's start a little bit with typical equipment that can be found in a solar photovoltaic plant. So we have the power quality recorders. That's basically what devices, our meteorological measurements, our inverters, which are on the right side of the screen. And also we have the main switchboard, which is a medium voltage panel. And we have the SCADA, which basically our distribution system officer connects to it. So what we're trying to do, if we were to split this network map into half, then you will see that we have the distribution system officer, which is connected by a 4G router. It's a private router that is given from him. So, and that connects to the network switch and to our SCADA, which operates all of the equipment inside the photovoltaic plant. So the method we were using up to now, especially in Greece and Cyprus, is just port forwarding. So you basically open up ports to the world and you let everybody in. That's it. So it's a technique, anybody who doesn't know it, it's just a technique that allows external devices to access computers or any other devices from a remote network. So we're forwarding ports by directing incoming traffic to the internet. So we can access our SCADA, our web interface for inverters, basically anything, me and everybody else in the world. So this is actually being done in Greece up to now, and a lot of the companies do it. So what we want to build is we want to build something that we can troubleshoot a specific problem in a PV park anywhere in the world. Like what we achieved is amazing. So I can just go like this. I have a VPN connection right now. I just troubleshoot a PV park which is in Cyprus, in the middle of Cyprus somewhere. So it gives you the best ability to be able to troubleshoot before you even get there. If you have to drive 2-3 hours, it gives you the ability to know what the problem is, take your equipment, and go there and fix it. Because with the opening of the market, competitive market, you want to be able to fix the equipment that's faulty as fast as possible. Well, let's say we have a response time of 2 hours maximum. So as I said, port forwarding is a method highly used by the Cyprus Distribution System Officer, and is still being used till today. So the Distribution System Officer is using the port forwarding method and is communicating with IC 60870 protocol. It's a commonly used protocol, I think, around the world. It has a private 4G network with a private SIM card number. They only know the number, but it's a private network, let's say, to them. But it's still public. So it doesn't matter. You can still access if you want. So he communicates with certain ports for certain addresses. So if he was to set an active power point of 100%, it will go to address 21. It will set a Boolean of 1, and that goes high. It means we have 100%. And he gets a feedback back to address 121. We'll tell him, yes, I've received it, and yes, that's at 100%. So he will get the feedback back telling him that, okay, that the SCADA has received its value, it set the park to 100%, and everything is running. Otherwise, if he doesn't get it back, he will give us a call and tell us something wrong with the SCADA. So these are some of the set points that is setting. So he has the active power set points, the meteorological. He can actually see the meteorological measurements in real time. He can see the main breaker status, and he can open or close the PV park to his liking, depending on the stability of the network. Why does he need to set power set points and turn on and off the park? This is because at the moment, Cyprus is a network that is isolated, which means that we're using steam turbines that are burning crude oil to produce electricity. And we're only allowed to drop those steam turbines up to 200 megawatts. So he has to limit the amount of solar power that's being utilized to generate electricity in order for the grid to be stable. Otherwise, we're risking blackout. If we were to drop those turbines below 200 megawatts, it means we're creating instability to the network, and again, we may have a blackout. So let's say a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of using port forwarding. So the advantages is we can have open access to inverters, the web interface, the SCADA, and all the equipment. That being said, we have a high download speed because we're communicating directly through a certain port to a certain device. There's no middle end. And it's cheaper to run that VPN. However, there are some major disadvantages. As we said, we're open to attacks because we're opening ports to the internet, and we can be scanned and audited. So as one of the colleagues said before, they can scan, steal the data, or even lock us out and ask for ransom. So it's often complex. It involves getting a static IP from the service provider because those ports have to be called with the IP, the specific IP from the provider, and then also together with the port as well with the IP. So it's unstable connection. You cannot refresh the page. We need to type the IP along with the port. Otherwise, the VPN, you can just type the IP address. It will direct you directly to the equipment that you need. So, and if we were to lose connectivity, there is nothing telling us, listen, you've lost connectivity. The data you're looking at is outdated. There's no way of knowing that. Whether with VPN, that you can do. It will let you know that you've lost the connectivity. You have to refresh the page, retype, again, the port along with the IP, and look at the data again. So if we are to refer each equipment to a single port, it means this is the LAN part of the park. So we have the power quality recorder with this LAN, and here is the inverter with different ports but the same IP address, and the same goes for the protection devices, the main switchboard, and the meteorological measurements. So those can vary because we can have two types of meteorological equipment. We can have just a radiation sensor, and then we can have wind if it's a tracker system, or we can have the solar temperature sensor, etc. There we go. So how do we implement the port forwarding? We used to implement port forwarding is we have your office router. You have a static IP from your provider, and you go onto the local router that's located inside the PV park, and you basically set an add rule that says this one IP with the port 600 ports are free for everyone to access. It's just that there's no security to it. So that's a huge drawback to what the companies are doing at the moment, construction companies. And one of the key benefits of this, though, is we can have Modbus TCP ports, so we can actually read Modbus values directly from the devices. So this can be a web interface, so you can access the web interface on the inverter. But here, you can actually read values directly off the inverter or off the meteorological unit. So that was a key benefit of why we used multiple ports from the LAN. So, as we said, we have live data to read on the status of each device, but also interact with it, so you can troubleshoot and interact with it. So, okay, we've seen the drawbacks of it. How did we improve our security? So, we managed to move away from port forwarding and try to implement VPN now. So a type of equipment we've been using Open VPN. So it's a cloud-based service. So it's not, you don't need any physical servers. So it was more ideal for us. It's highly scalable. So you can add as many as you want, and it's all virtual. There's nothing physical in our premises at the moment. So as one of the most key benefits is open source. It means it's free. How does OpenVPN work? So the OpenVPN works is, as I said, is cloud-based, no servers required. It offers encrypted tunneling over internet and remote access site-to-site VPN, which is exactly what we want. We want to be able to access our equipment remotely anywhere in the world. You want to be able to troubleshoot the equipment and give you the best response time as possible. So we want to be able to have an idea of what is faulty in the equipment and what is faulty and what actions can we take. So we can access all of the park's equipment as if we were inside. So you can see we can have PV Park 1, 2, 3, multiple PCs. So you can have the remote worker, the internet, the modem, the firewall, and the router. This is the local router inside the PV Park. So how did we implement it? So you set up a client server. So this client server can be any PC. It can be my PC or my colleague's PC. It can be we can have as many client servers as we need. You can connect to the VPN server and the VPN by typing a specific IP, and the VPN server will give you access to the client server again, which is located in a specific PV park. So the key difference between port forwarding now is we have a firewall there. We have the router, we have the firewall, and this firewall has 3 physical ports: the LAN, which will direct you to the PV Park's devices, the DSO, which the distribution system officer now has to go through our firewall for him to be connected. So it doesn't matter if he uses port forwarding, he's still going to find the firewall VPN here. So our park is protected on his side as well. And we also have the internet port, which it will allow you to connect to the internet just for, let's say, the monitoring equipment, like if you know the Huawei inverters, the Fusion Solar, the monitoring equipment for inverters, etc. So the remote user is a VPN client, as we said, asks for permission to the VPN server to connect to the selected VPN client on the other end. So the VPN server will need to establish VPN protocol between the two, and then it will allow you to connect. Otherwise, you won't be able to connect. And then a remote user, a VPN client, is allowed by the VPN server to connect to multiple VPN clients. So we can connect, so one PC can connect to multiple PV parks. So you can open all of the addresses, all of the parks at the same time. So if we were to scale it in a multi-level, so you see you can have as many remote desktops, let's say remote devices, we can have as many colleagues of mine they can connect, and then we can have multiple multiple VPN clients, which are multiple PV parks. It doesn't matter how many parks we have; we can just implement them at ease, and we can keep. What we managed to do is we keep the addresses the same, so we just change one number of the IP, so it's easy for the IT guys as well, and we managed to keep a nice sequence with the PV parks that are being commissioned and implemented. So talking a little bit about the advantages. So as I said, it's open source, and we have proven examples on firewalls of PNSense and OPNSense, which are highly used in the market. And also we have a minimal capital expense. So the only expense that we have until now was to buy a remote firewall. So it's a Linux-based computer. As a construction company, and which we own also solar parks, we can just sell it and take our equipment and remove it from our VPN. And it's backed up regularly, so in case if we had the cyber attack, we always have our backup, which is stored on the cloud, and we can just take our latest backup and set up the system again. And we have live feed. We know if the data is valid, so you don't need to refresh. If you were to lose a connection, it will tell you you've lost the connection. And one of the main disadvantages is a service contract can become expensive. So if you need any extra features, you have to go under contract, and it can be quite pricey. And there's third party involved, such as devices, service companies. As I said before, we bought the small PC that we've implemented as a firewall. So it was quite pricey for what we're getting. So if we were to see it work, so you see that LAN 27 is SunPower 3 megawatt park, and it's online. So this is the status of each firewall on each PV park. So that's how we see that it's online. And if there's anything wrong, we'll go to the next slide, and we'll see that this bot was trying to scan this port with this destination, and it's trying to gain access on our firewall. But this is because we have the VPN in our firewalls. This is how many we have blocked. And if you look at the times, they're all on the same day and in the same minute. That's just in under a minute. That's how many entries we've blocked with our VPN. So, okay, we've secured the connection. We're trying to troubleshoot and monitor remotely daily 2-3 times a day. How can we make it better? So the next step is to build a centralized SCADA or an automatic data acquisition system that will take that data and it will do the monitoring for us. It can be AI or it can be machine learning. So we want to build the monitoring station that's going to have, it will monitor the security systems, the cameras, the alarms, the smoke alarms, everything, the inverters itself, the medium voltage stations, like if we have an SF6 gas leakage, because the SF6 gas, in case you don't know, is a gas that is used to eliminate arcs. It's very important. If you were to open and close the switch, it means life and death if we were to lose the gas. We can monitor the low voltage stations, the room temperature sensors, and it can alert technicians for fault, so they can start and looking forward to more troubleshooting manually, so they can identify what is the problem and the equipment that they may need. All right. So thank you. I've seen one in Greece. They've managed to shut down an entire neighborhood with that PV park. So the closest substation was under threat. But in Cyprus, because it's a very small place at the moment, we don't get those. But we've moved away from VPN. Now we're at we moved away from port forward. Now we're at VPN. So we've managed to secure ourselves in time. But with the dynamic of the market now, with our feeding through a cable from Cyprus to Israel, we're looking to become a huge battery for them. I think it's going to be a problem in the following years.
Other questions? Yeah, one down there. Please wait for the microphone.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I was just thinking about the VPN server. Is the VPN server from you guys, or is it a separate?
No. The OpenVPN server. So it's called OpenVPN. If you go to the website, you will see that we've basically outsourced it. It's free to all, let's say, VPN, and you just pay for a service if you want to scale it more and more. So you pay what you need, but at first, it's open source. You can test it, implement it, play with it, and see if it's suitable for.
The connection is only for a small protocol. Wouldn't it be better to have a secure tunnel just for that protocol between those two machines that need to communicate, instead of having a full-blown VPN? Because the VPN gives access to a network.
Yes, but to think of it, it's not just one person that is logging onto it. You can have a team of like 10, 15 people logging onto it. So I can log into it as a consultant to the technicians. The technicians can log onto it to perform the troubleshoot that they need and come up with a plan of fixing it. And actually, there was times that I had to give access to, let's say, Huawei or the tracker company from Greece, so they can actually see what the problem is themselves and tell us how to perform the troubleshooting. This is basically more in terms of warranty. So sometimes they want to check it themselves, and they come up with a plan. Yes, you can fix it. No, you can't. I'll send you this part and go and fix it. So that's why it was better to have a full-blown VPN.
Thank you so much.
One more.
Oh, thank you for your presentation. I was getting quite worried there when I saw your port forwarding. So the question is, I can see you have a list of IP addresses that's been blocked, and so basically, for example, just an example, I can download the VPN client and log in to your server. What rules are configured in your firewall to block me? Because is it IP whitelisting? On what basis?
No. You need to have a specific IP address. So my PC has a virtual machine on it.
Okay.
So it has a specific IP, so it only allowed specific IPs. So specific people can log into it.
Okay, so you have like...
So you need to have a rule for it, for me to enter.
Okay, fantastic. So they got static IPs, and then, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And it's a two-factor authentication code. So you need a PIN, you need the specific PIN that I'm going to give you, and then you also need to download the Google Authenticator, which will give you the two-factor authentication.
Awesome, thank you.
Any more questions? No. It sounds to me like you're using the open VPN, and we can discuss about having a third party, basically, that you are reliant on a third party to run. But it's only for setting and then giving feedback that the new setting has been acknowledged. You don't really run any monitoring on it as such.
No. Basically, the OpenVPN, we use it